Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mrs. Colkhorst. First, I want to assure you that if we're talking about protecting life, I remember the Senate stands with you. But I want to examine what lives are we protecting. We're protecting the lives of all babies? Or do we think that a baby who survives an abortion has different rights than any other baby who's born at the same gestational stage?
Well, in Senate Bill 23, it amends that portion of the law that is about children that are born alive.
Now, would you say that babies who are born outside of an abortion context have fewer rights, lesser rights than babies who are surviving an abortion?
Senator Johnson, I know where you're going with that, and I would say, of course not. Every baby has a right. And for me, every baby has the right to be born, not to be aborted. So this bill goes straight to that abortion and says even though you're terminating this child, this life, and I believe that life begins at inception, even though you're terminating it, if it is expelled, and if you want to read that part of the code, it's very graphic, if it is expelled from the mother's womb and does take a breath, that in 1979, 29-1 of a vote on this Senate floor, carried by a Republican and then by Gene Green on the House floor, a Democrat, they agreed overwhelmingly that that child should be rendered aid. And what this bill does is toughens that. And let me tell you why we're talking about this today. It is in direct relations to some of the comments that we've heard nationally about maybe this should be between a patient and the doctor on whether or not that baby should live or not. And I would say that the original Senate Bill 117 actually was created in 1979 off of another direct action in California when a baby had been suffocated, that this legislature in this building decided that Texas would take a very bold stand. So where some of the other states are a little ambiguous, this is an attempt to make sure that Texas is not ambiguous.
And let's take the situation where a physician denies aid to a viable child that is born. That's a horrible act, you would agree, correct?
Yes.
And outside an abortion context, it could be that a physician refuses to render appropriate medical aid to a viable child that is born. That could happen, right? And that action of denying care to a baby would be no different if it's a baby that was born in a normal context than it would be if the same baby were born in an abortion context. You're still refusing to give that child a chance at life, correct?
When you're saying that a baby was born in a hospital
anywhere
versus a clinic?
No, I'm saying that you could have an obstetrician who delivers a child outside of an abortion context, but it's premature. It's 22 weeks, going to need intensive neonatal care, and the physician declines to do it. That's wrong, isn't it?
It is definitely wrong, and I have physicians that sit on this floor and would tell you that. And that is why I worked on House Bill 13 and a follow-up bill that you actually voted for in Health and Human Services, the committee that talks so directly to our NICUs and the quality of NICUs that we're trying to create.
Right.
And so not all children are born in hospitals with NICUs, but most are. Now,
but you're making it a criminal penalty to deny care for a child born alive in one instance, but not a criminal penalty for the exact same occurrence in another instance. So is this about protecting life, or is it persecuting a physician or harassing a physician or intimidating a physician who assists a woman in the exercise of her constitutional rights in a manner consistent with that physician's own religious beliefs, which we spent a long time trying to uphold last week on Senate Bill 17? Isn't this inconsistent?